Greg Everett with Catalyst Athletics here to run you through the installation of rolled rubber flooring in our new garage gym and give you some tips to get it done well without driving yourself crazy. Rolled rubber is great for getting minimal seams, but keep in mind that it's heavy. I'm using 25-foot rolls of 3/8-inch rubber, and each roll is about 210 pounds. If you can't manage that, you can get shorter rolls that are a lot easier to handle. Ideally, don't have the space full of gear like I do. Make sure you measure correctly and order a little extra. You don't want to end up short a few square feet and have to wait to finish the job. Sweep the floor well before you start. Once the rubber is down, you won't want to move it, and you don't want to end up in a princess and the pea situation. You'll also sometimes get fine dust working its way up between the seams if you don't clean the floor well. Always start laying the rubber along a straight line. Usually this is a wall, but keep in mind that walls aren't always perfectly straight or square, so double check before you start. I'm using the edges of these platforms as my straight reference line because I know they're perfectly straight and square after laying them out with a chalk line, but also because I want a tight fit around them. Remember that the ends of rolled rubber are not straight or square, so square them off before you start with each roll or you're going to have a bad time. Change your knife blade frequently, at least with each new roll. It makes a huge difference not only in how easily you can make your cuts, but how clean those cuts are, which will make your seams much tighter. Use a straight edge as a guide to make your initial few cut passes. Put the straight edge on the side of the rubber you're keeping so it will be protected in case your blade wanders. Make a series of light cuts and let the blade do the work. Don't try to make deep cuts by forcing the knife into the rubber. Once you have your cut established, slide something under the rubber to allow the cut to spread open. Not only will this help the blade from wandering, but it will make the cuts easier by reducing friction on the blade. Lay all the biggest pieces first, and then you can use the scraps to fill in the smaller spaces. Don't hack up your full rolls to fill small spaces right at the start, or you may end up with a big space that looks like a patchwork quilt without any of the charm. When you have to trim the long end of a roll to fit into a space, you can use the first roll as your straight edge, but be careful to hold that edge flat, not wander into it, and use a fresh blade to get the smoothest and straightest cut you can for a good seam between the two rolls. When possible, stagger your seams. Try to avoid having 4 corners meeting. That'll help keep the edges from rising up. You want a tight fit for aesthetics, but also to prevent the rubber from shifting around on the floor with use, so cut on the generous side and tamp down the edges as needed. To make sure you have tight seams, use a piece of wood to pound each row of rubber into the previous before laying the next. Once you have all your biggest pieces laid, use your remaining rubber to fill in the last spaces. When you're finished, sweep the mats well and then you can mop, but don't use too much water or it'll get between the seams and you'll have a mold farm under your rubber soon. Good luck with your own flooring project and check out rubberflooringinc.com for all the flooring you need.